Cool. Yeah, let's do this. Last talk of the day. It will be a pretty big topic because it's a very ambitious project. It's about a new form of money. So let's get started. So what is money, actually? And to me, that quote from Bernard Lietaer was very helpful, insightful, to understand that money lives in the space of agreements between people. So kind of he says it lives in the same space as marriage or a lease agreement. And I think the simplest way to think about it is that if you're alone on an island, money is meaningless. So kind of money is in relationship to other people. Roughly speaking, you can say kind of if you hold money, there is an implicit kind of relationship or agreement that other people are willing to do things for that money. And it's quite complex kind of how we get to those points, but it's important to understand that's what money really is, agreements. So the talk was structured in a way to think about, okay, in the crypto industry, we have all kind of experiments of stable coins, but do we really have something that has the ambition to become a new form of money? And I would say the first thing is, like let's say if you by design try to peg your currency to the dollar, you're obviously not doing something that has the potential to replace the dollar. So that's kind of one first thing to think about when someone introduces a new stablecoin. The second thing is, if someone introduces a new stablecoin, you might ask, who would benefit if that stablecoin or that thing, kind of sometimes it's also called flat coin if it's not, if that thing would become the global currency or a global currency, who would benefit from that? And I would say, well, at least I would say personally, I would say it's only worth pursuing such a thing if, well, actually, globally, a lot of people benefit from it and not just, I don't know, 40% in a kind of small investor group that invested early in that thing. So another kind of important thing to think about, whatever money you kind of look at, it's important to get to the core and try to understand how is money coming into circulation? Who essentially controls the mechanisms? Who has the power to issue money? And the answer in circles is we want to go the radical step and say everyone should have that power. So in circles, everyone individually has the right and the power to issue their own money. And now kind of the small sentence below. Of course, to make that work, we do it in a very formalized, standardized way so that it's actually possible kind of to deal with all those different forms of money because they are constructed under very simple rules. So circles, again, has the ambition to create a global alternative form of money, and it boils down to those three very simple rules. Rule number one, every person can issue their own currency, their own form of circles at a rate of 1 unit per hour. Number two is a trust mechanism. I can trust others, and essentially that means I'm willing to exchange their circles one-to-one. I'm willing to do that without being actively involved. And finally, 7% demurrage. At all time, all money, wherever it is, all circles kind of lose 7% in value per year. And we will go into detail into those. So rule number one, again, under the hood, in circles, we have many different circles. So here on the left side, I see a screenshot from a circles account, and you see it holds different circles. In another interface, I see kind of from whom I hold circles. But ideally, I still see just my total balance, and I don't need to understand the details. But under the hood, it's important to understand that exists. So in an example, person A, B, C, A holds their own circles and circles from person B because they trust B, so they hold 300 A circles, 100 B circles, and they want to transact to person C. But person C does not trust person A, is not willing to accept A circles. How does it work? Okay, through transitive transfers. So A can send 100 of their own circles to B, and B essentially gets 100 circles more, forwards 100 circles, so B kind of, in total, they still have the same amount of circles, but C can accept circles from a person they know and they trust, and yeah, that's how the transitive transfers work. Going to the third rule, the 7% demurrage. Why is that important? And just so again, demurrage means all balances all the time are reduced. And so we have essentially, on a personal level, two forces. So on the one hand, you constantly generate new circles at this 1 circle per hour. And on the other hand, old circles are reduced. And that's important to find this balance. If you would only always introduce new circles to the system, then eventually kind of the total supply of circles would be so large that kind of the newly generated circles would be irrelevant compared to all the circles that are already in existence. So we need those two forces to come to stability. And if you do the simple math, then you can calculate that at 125,000 circles, it exactly kind of evens out, 7% reduction of that and new generation of that. Let's look at a few graphs. So that is actually the red line is actually the rate at which the US dollar has changed in supply. So you see kind of on the, if you look at the very right end here, so roughly here's 5% this line, so 7% is this line. So on average, the US dollar is also growing at 7% per year. Well, crazy exception in the last years, but so 7% is in line with what the dollar is doing. Here is the view of you as an individual. Kind of, again, there are two forces. So if you hold exactly those 125,000, or one way to look at it is there's a 7% tax on all money. So every money all the way is always taxed at 7%, and that tax is used to redistribute it to everyone as UBI. So that means if you hold this 125,000 circles, the tax you're kind of paying is exactly equal to your own issuance. If you own more, your tax rate will kind of, as you own infinity, your tax rate will approach 7%. If you own less, of course, you kind of pay negative tax, so you get more than you pay. Finally, another graph, that would be just your personal circles balance if you would live for 80 years. So kind of in the beginning, it would grow linearly. You are just minting, or you are creating circles. Eventually, kind of you reaches 125,000, so kind of the force of the 7% decay and the new issuance kind of evens out. Well, then let's say at 80 you die, so you stop issuing, and then essentially only the decay of 7% would kick in. Overall, in the circle system, the total supply of circles always converges to this magic number, 125,000 times number of people in the system. And I think that's super important to have that connection. So money needs to be connected to people, because as on the very first slide, money is an agreement between people. So Circles is not a startup. It's not a it's not a startup. It's an idea. It may be a dream. Quick introduction about history. So the idea initially is quite old, even older than that. 10 years ago, described as a fork of Bitcoin, because back then Bitcoin was the only thing. Presented then early in the Ethereum community, that was at DappCon 1 in London many years ago, where Circles was also already presented. And finally, after kind of 8 years from the first blog post to it launched in 2020 on back then XDAI, today Gnosis Chain, and went quite viral back then. So that is how the trust graph formed. So here you see the first people. 2 hours later, it looked like that. A day later, it looked like that. And 2-3 weeks later, it looked like that, with over 100,000. With over 200,000 accounts building this huge web of trust. But at the same time, we had this extremely successful launch. This is the number of signups. Then it had flattened out significantly. That's a mix of reasons, kind of sometimes technical stuff. So some things were simply not ready yet, didn't work. And essentially now I'm going to tell you how we want to kind of get circles going again. It doesn't look that bad. So kind of you just saw the signups that were, well, in the beginning very lot, but then flattened out. If we just look at transactions, well, we can actually see that we are already in the, well, actually are in a place where we, well, start to see transactions again. Quickly just going over that, few experiments that happened in the years here in Berlin are various places where you can buy and sell with buy stuff with circles here. Bauer Direct, you can whatever see what you can buy, and here just the more detailed, actual kind of transitive transfer graph. In this case, on the left side that's me, my account. On the right side that was this vendor you just saw, and this is how complex such a transaction looks like. Small side note. If you are interested in calculating such a graph, and if you think you can, or in such a path, there's currently trying to hire because it's quite complex, and we need to get better at that. But yeah, side note. There is an ongoing experiment or rollout in Indonesia. There was a talk, there was or is already was a talk here at DappCon. You should watch if you want to learn more about what's going on in Bali and Indonesia. So I want to continue to talk about something we call group currency and the concept to again simplify the concept of those many individual tokens. So we absolutely believe that this to put that concept of individual tokens at its core is important to keep the system absolutely decentralized, to keep the system resilient. At the same time, those many tokens, yes, make it harder to integrate things. So very concrete example, I'll go through it. So a simple way to make it easier is to say, okay, we have now, let's say we have person A, we have person B, and we have person C. And essentially what I'm trying to express, I will accept circles from all those three persons. So again, in the circle system, I can do that. I can trust those three people. But to make it simpler, we could create a shared token across them. And that is what we call a group currency. So in this case, we create a group currency and we say this group currency is one-to-one backed by those individual tokens. So essentially, any one of those individuals can go and deposit their token into the contract. And so they deposit 10 individual tokens, they mint 10 group tokens. And that, of course, then makes it much easier because then you just have this one token. It's easy to put that on a DEX. It's easy to put that in a wallet. Again, much easier to deal with a simple token. So here, again, just the rules. Yeah, you can have various kind of groups. You can have various forms of governance. But in the end, it boils down to the mechanism just described. Here, just a screenshot to an interface, how to manage those groups, create new groups, add members. Examples for groups, it could be members of a DAO, it could be something calculated on the trust or on the web of trust. You can calculate a score, a trust score to people based on their connection in the graph. You can have local groups. You can have things like number 5. You can have some form of verification process, proof of humanity, Bright ID, well, theoretical, maybe World ID, whatever. I'll skip that one. So just Elinor Ostrom, great economist, talking about how commons should be governed. I think those principles should be applied to the groups. But let's go on. Let's talk about the concrete experiment we did here for DappCon. So at DappCon, we wanted to do exactly that. We wanted to accept circles, and we did. So you could, had the option to buy the DappCon ticket also with circles. So we had to decide whom circle should we accept. And so we set this up, very experimental thing. So you could deposit 1 GNO of liquidity against your own personal tokens, and then you would be introduced into this group. or added to this group, and then those were the circles that were accepted. Here was the interface, and that means you hadn't to be a member of the group yourself, but you had to be connected to someone who was a member. Yeah, again, here humans of Gnosis. And let's look into it into more detail and try to understand the mechanics. So let's say here the green ones are the members. And DappCon kind of, well, the organizational account, they trust all the members. And let's try to understand the capacity. So let's assume here each of those people has 1,000 circles, and a ticket would cost also 1,000 circles. Then that means kind of DappCon only accepts circles from those 5 people here. So in total, there are only 5,000 circles that are eligible. So kind of that means in total, those guys can also buy a ticket because they have the trust connection. So this guy can send his circles to her, and those circles are accepted. But in total, once 5 tickets are sold, then kind of all the circles that are eligible are kind of sitting here in the DappCon account, and no one can buy further tickets because, again, DappCon has quite basically is not accepting anyone's money anymore. So what can happen is that this person, or basically that those 5 buy a ticket, and then even those have circles, but they hold, so this person, let's say, holds the circles from that person, so they hold enough circles, but they still couldn't buy the ticket because, again, DappCon only accepts their circles. So let's look at the slightly different configuration. So here we still have the 5 people that are trusted by DappCon. But in this case, this person only trusts people, is only connected to people who are also kind of in this green group. So that means they can never kind of end up in a situation where they hold circles that are not accepted. So they can always buy a ticket. Then kind of here, out of that group, any 2 can buy, because, so let's say those 2 can transitively kind of connect here, and then essentially those 2 circles are paid. So again, out of this group, it's 2, and out of that group, it's only 1. So basically, if this guy here buys a ticket, then kind of moves their circles there, and then kind of this here becomes the bottleneck. Things change, of course, as soon as, like, let's say, kind of DappCon initially kind of receives all those circles, but then they spend it again. So let's say here's a caterer, and they accept those circles. Then the circles come kind of into circulation again, and then they could be used to buy more tickets. Just giving an outlook. So as mentioned, there are many forms to create group currencies. Proof of humanity is one of those. It's a concept to, kind of, you upload a video and kind of prove that you're a human. And again, one can build a group currency based on that. A quick kind of theoretical thought of what should be the value of an individual circles token. And kind of it should be for your individual circles, it should be kind of the maximum or the maximum value of all the things you are connected with. So simple example, if you are in 5 groups, so you have the ability to convert your individual tokens to group 1, to group 2, to group 3, to group 5, then the value of your individual circle should be as valuable as the most valuable group you are in. Because, I mean, like, let's say the group 1 is worth, I don't know, 50 cents, group 2, 60 cents, and so on. Then, of course, you would create the most valuable one. Again, and from the group perspective, it's quite the opposite. So from a group perspective, the group money is worth the same as the minimum of all the members. There cannot be a member whose tokens are worth less than the group money. Quick kind of outlook saying Circles has use cases beyond money because we create this huge web of trust. And actually, this web of trust has economic incentives behind it. Because if you trust someone, you are kind of, in a way, taking a risk because you're willing to accept their circles. And that is, to some extent, a risk because, again, if they are if that person is trusted by no one else, you end up with circles you can't use and you can't spend, and you lose your own valuable circles. So kind of this is an incentivized web of trust, so it's quite robust. So of course that can be used to build a rating system, social recovery, or just connect it with other social graphs we have, like POAP, Lens. Yeah, just the example kind of, as you know, we have those nice POAPs, and they themselves kind of form a social graph. So kind of I met Patricio, and 116 people also met Patricio, and of course those connections you can also use as a social graph and overlay it with circles. Two kind of just mentions. Right now, everything in circles is public. Trust connections are public, payment is public. There is certainly concern for privacy. So just an outlook, we are working on it. That's kind of a version of, or like similar to how Tornado used to work, specifically for circles. There's another project related to circles or coming out of circles, Circles Entropy, that tries to even, so here payments are made private. Here the goal is to even make the trust connections private. Giving an outlook. So there was a lot of complexity in this talk, I guess. And really what our goal now is we are still extremely convinced that the concept at its core makes sense, but we need to package or need to package it or provide it in such a way that it's super simple. And I mean, of course, the analogy is every one of you is using the dollar every day, and it's just very simple to use. Of course, the dollar itself is extremely complex, and kind of the processes of everything that's under the hood is quite complex, but yeah, it's completely abstracted away from you. And our goal is to achieve the same for circles. Few concrete initiatives. We are building a Gnosis wallet with state-of-the-art account abstraction, using the safe. You won't need a seed phrase and all those things. And circles will be a first-class citizen of that. We want to establish, kind of had experimentally this humans of Gnosis, probably just a Gnosis circle, so a liquid version of circles that is widely accepted, at least within the Gnosis chain ecosystem. And many of you might have heard of Gnosis Pay, kind of this thing with a card. And through that, we can integrate circles and maybe not start something where you can pay the full amount in circles, but something like if you use the card, you can pay 2%, 5% of the value in circles. So in that way, kind of start the path to making circles globally acceptable. So thank you very much. Let's bring better money to the world that's actually decentralized and serves humans first.
Thanks so much.
I think I'm over time, but as I am the last, I think we can still allow.
It's true, indeed. We have time for questions, as long as everybody is not tired. There and there.
Yeah, hello. If this gets adopted, which I very much hope for, how will transaction fees be paid and computation costs be paid? Like, is the idea maybe to have Gnosis chain validators being part of the system?
Yeah, I mean, by default, transaction fees would be paid in the same way as any other transaction. So currently, the default fee payment token on Gnosis chain is XDAI. So transaction fees are paid in XDAI. We are indeed looking into ways, kind of with the humans of Gnosis or Gnosis circles, I already hinted at it, that you have to, or kind of in the way you did it was to kind of deposit GNO, and that would give a nice possibility that GNO is staked, and those kind of become Gnosis or circles validators, and they might decide to so essentially it's up to the validator what they accept as fee payment. So absolutely, having circles validators would be amazing, and those could accept kind of the circles, Gnosis circles, let's say.
Martin, Can you please give more details about your vision for the integration between Gnosis Pay and Circle's UBI?
Right. So yeah, I quickly hinted at it. So I mean, many card programs have some form of whatever cashback or something like that. And yeah, there would be. Well, we are exploring the possibilities to say, okay, if you pay something for $100, well, maybe still 98% of that you need to pay in dollars in stablecoin. But a small fraction, let's say 2%, you could pay in Circles. Of course, what would need to happen under the hood is that something like this Gnosis Circles exists, and that's actually liquid and also can be exchanged for dollars or euros. That's at least, I mean, then it's immediately possible to kind of, I mean, then in reality, the merchant is still kind of just accepting dollars, but from a user perspective, you can partially use Circles. Of course, ultimately, the goal is to get the merchant also to accept Circles in some form. That's, of course, much more, well, complicated to get them to do that. But short term, we can offer those interesting, kind of almost like a cashback program.
Right up here at the front, and then over there on the right after.
Thank you, super interesting. Do you make a difference between private and company accounts, and how could that be? Because as a private person, I want to trust other private person, but as a company, I can't trust every of my customer.
Right. So yes, absolutely, we do. I mean, the biggest difference is, we call them organizational wallets. So the biggest difference is organizational wallets don't get UBI. So an individual account always kind of is also in the business of issuing money. And organizational accounts can trust others and can decide to accept those Circles, but they can't be trusted, or you cannot trust them because there is nothing to, I mean, they don't have their own token in a way. So you just need to trust they hold balances of people, and you trust those people, not the organization. So that's different, number one. I agree, like as a shop, or well, even as DappCon who's selling tickets, you should not trust all your customers. That's not the point. So the point is to trust, people the point is you trust people you are close with, and then kind of there's a transitive path. Of course, like for businesses, it absolutely does make sense to create those, in a way, curated lists, and that's kind of the group currency idea. So you kind of outsource this decision of whom to include to someone else, and you just say, okay, I trust whoever is on that list, or whoever is, and again, the lists could be this Gnosis Circle we are trying to set up, but of course also some verification mechanism, or basically as a business, ideally you kind of just, accept Circles that are accepted by others as well, because that's also what you're most interested in. If I receive those Circles, will I be able to spend those Circles again?
Thank you for your talk. Money in the real world is based on productivity and what you can offer against it.
Right.
So there are jobs that are going to be harder to do, which a lot of people might give up on because they already have access to free money, so why bother? Universal basic income is only about helping people who really need it, not about having everybody sort of equalize their income levels. I can see how your system can still be used to be rich, but I am concerned that being rich is not going to be anybody's motive anymore, because they can sort of have enough money for all of their needs. So overall, the society is going to get poorer and poorer in terms of productivity eventually.
Okay, maybe a few things. So first of all, it's absolutely possible. So UBI should not be kind of misunderstood for everyone gets the same. So everyone gets the same UBI, but of course, on top of that, you can absolutely become rich. The difference in circles is the only way to become rich is to get a lot of circles from a lot of people, and that essentially means you gave value to a lot of people because you somehow offered something. So that they will be willing to give their circles to you because, you offered them something. So in circles, all money is kind of created bottom up. So the only way to get rich is to, offer a lot of people services. In our today's world, money is kind of more created top down. So it's absolutely possible to, just create money, or kind of if you're at the top, it's actually much easier to create money. And kind of the theory is, it trickles down, which often it does not. That I would say. The second thing I would say is, to your point about productivity, in circles, where does the value come from in a way? So in circles, it's kind of everyone in first. It's your individual responsibility to, you are issuing your own token. It's kind of your responsibility to say, what are you offering for it? Of course, so there, in that sense, it's extremely individualistic. Of course, as soon as you kind of create those trust connections or become a member of groups, it becomes a collective thing. Then, if there is a big group, it's kind of no longer only the responsibility of every individual to kind of provide products and productivity for that money. It's kind of a collective thing for the whole group. And I think that's, of course, extremely important because ultimately every form of UBI, if UBI allows UBI is always kind of needs to be a mix of some people being net receiver and some people being net spender, but every form of UBI, or if you're a receiver in the UBI, it always needs to come from others. So it needs to come from a group. So groups are a crucial piece here. All right, I think Lars.
I think this will be the last one.
Okay, sorry for being last. How do you handle the multiple wallet per person problem? If your game is actually to push one circle per person per hour.
You mean that
like if one person would hold 5 different wallets and then he would receive 5 circles per wallet.
Right. Okay. So yes. So kind of this is a Sybil attack problem. So yes, as an individual, you could, I could go right now and create 10,000 circuits accounts. I can just do that on the blockchain. The point is, unless I get people to trust those accounts, they are completely worthless. So if I create an account right now and it's trusted by no one accepts those tokens, well then they exist, but who cares? No one cares. So the point is, yes, you could do 2 wallets, or you could have 5 wallets, or whatever. But the people. The point is you couldn't get to your, or the idea is that you can't go to your friends and say, please trust me 5 times. So the idea is, you collect your trust connections in one account, and there is kind of this, it's essentially this. We are outsourcing this problem kind of to the individuals to determine who's real and kind of also enforce this rule that everyone is only signing up once.
Okay, that's the end of the questions for today. And something that hasn't yet been mentioned, but very relevant to this talk, is that there is a Circles marketplace tomorrow afternoon.
So I think kind of in the hall next to us there is a small kind of booth or where things are can be bought for Circles. That's point one. I think tomorrow in the evening after DappCon there is a Circles, or kind of specifically the Circles entropy, this kind of privacy circle focused version of Circles. That's also happening.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for sticking around.